Okay. For those of you who've had your fill of me, too bad. I'm here for a while. I am here. We're going to have a fun discussion. It's always fun talking with an analyst. And right now we have Joe Derechowski. He is the executive director and industry analyst with the NPD Group. A lot of great data that comes from there. And we're going to start off with the title of this talk, which is 2018, the Smart Kitchen's Pivotal Year. Joe, why is 2018 the Smart Kitchen's Pivotal Year?
Well, first, hello everybody, and thank you very much for having me. It's interesting. How many people went to CES this year? So I want you to check, and also I want to know, are you guys cooks? How many of you guys cook at home? All right, so I want to see if you agree with me here. I think this year, in the long run, to set it up, this is like the year television was invented. Television was invented in 1927, but it took 1947 to 51 when it really started to get into people's homes. Well, today, smart kitchen is roughly in about 3% of homes. Like, we still got a lot more room to grow. It really hasn't taken off. But the thing the catalyst that gets with it are really dependent on what we've seen with major appliances and that they've done. There's an insight that they have that they're starting to apply that is going to take off this year. And that's 2 years ago when I went to IHA, there was very few major guys who could actually act on this. But what they're able to do now is this. As a consumer, every day you got to figure out, what am I planning to eat? You got to cook it. You got to clean it. You got to plan and shop for the next day. And you got to prepare it. You got to do it 3 meals a day, 365 days a year. The smart technology that the major appliances have done have figured out ways to help in those areas. They have evolved to be an open platform where different appliances can speak to each other. They have, for example, you can go in and say, I want to order these foods for dinner, my favorite thing, and it'll say you have everything in your refrigerator but these 3 items. You want me to order it? And you can say, yeah, I'll order it. And it's tied to Alexa, which is tied to the grocery store, and it'll deliver it in 15 minutes. Or it can say of those items that are in your house, what recipes can I make out of them? And it will tell you it and walk you through. So part of the reason why it's an inflection point is the major appliance companies have evolved from forcing you to be connected to their products to be part of an open platform. And the logistics that the grocery retailers have created that allow you to fulfill a need urgently is now in place. Add to it over the holidays, the #1 selling item that we track was smart home. So given that this is starting to enter into consumers' home, there's more retailer logistics innovation, and the major appliances are allowing you to start figuring ways to plan, prepare, cook, eat, and clean up your meals faster. This is the inflection point. Now it's going to take, these will roll out this year, but it's going to take 3 to 5 years for this to start getting to broader and broader mass. But as it does, it just opens the door for small kitchen electrics. It opens the door for cooktop. It opens the door that all this stuff is going to have a huge pull coming from these items down the road. So that's a long answer.
No, that's great. What I want to know is, so I'm glad that you clarified a little bit, because I feel like there is still, in the minds of people, there is a difference between buying an Alexa, right, and buying a $3,000 refrigerator.
Right.
Because let me rephrase that. So buying a connected toaster versus buying a connected fridge, right?
Right.
The toaster, I'm going to get my money's worth out of. But I expect to have my refrigerator for 10 plus years. And I'm not confident that my fridge isn't going to get bricked one day,
right,
because of a software update that suddenly the light doesn't come on anymore, or the touch screen is broken. So how does that play into all of this? Like, if this is going to be the year, you say they've announced stuff, right? The appliances are talking to each other, but there's still, I feel like there's an expectation across generations that these large appliances should last longer than a phone.
Correct.
And how is that going to impact what you're saying today?
Well, it's critical. It's fundamental that it has to be part of it. We can't, it is a case where in the end it's about making dinner or making the meals, and so you're going to expect the appliances and the quality. Just because technology is added to it, the quality can't change. The fundamentals of marketing still apply to everything. So the product still has to be right and of good quality to survive. So with the smart technology, it's going to have to last just as long. I think the bigger insight is, like when we start talking smart toasters or smart other appliances, it's not about the app. Like, we don't care about apps. What we care about is it's replacing an existing behavior, or it's replacing an existing product, and it has to be better, faster, cheaper, healthier, some sort of than that existing product, and it still has to be the same quality or better, hopefully. It has to be priced very similar or the same, or at least in the ballpark. It has to have all those fundamentals of marketing of the 4 Ps still apply.
So let's take a step back real quick. What kinds of things are you tracking at NPD? What are you looking at in your role as an analyst? What are some of the things?
Well, as an industry, we track point of sale across a variety of industries. Basically everything that's non-consumer goods, food, drug, or mass. And so we get all that point of sale information. We're able to track it from tech. So our tech group does a lot of tracking smart technology and has been doing it for years, working with those manufacturers. Personally, I work more in our space here, which is small kitchen electrics, major appliances, housewares, textiles, home improvement, personal care, home environment products. Those are all the areas that I track.
And what are some broad trends you're seeing in those areas as it pertains to like the smart kitchen? Maybe we can kind of narrow that down.
Okay. Well, the trends we're seeing is we're still evolving. Right now, the initial trends are we're starting more with the technology or the app and trying to apply a benefit to it. And what I'm trying to hope and see with some people moving in the industry is starting with the benefit and realizing the technology supports the benefit that it has. What's happening is we are, and part of the reason why our industry has been so hot the last few years is we are trying to live a healthier life. The demographics are in our favor. And so by living a healthier life, that means I got to eat more fruits, more vegetables, more homemade meals, and protein. All of that means I'm getting involved. So the number of meals we're eating at home is growing, so that means we got to get involved, and that's driving part of the kitchen. The second part is we're entertaining more at home. So as we entertain more at home, that opens the door for a whole other benefits that smart technology could play into it. So the biggest things are things that help us live that healthy life, that help us entertain, and realizing that all of those processes, we're looking for ways to make it more convenient and easier.
So you say 2018 is a pivotal year, right? And that sets the groundwork for adoption to come. What are the ways this industry could trip itself up? What are the things that they need to be looking out for now to set themselves up for this future that you see?
The things that they need to be looking at, we need to be looking out for now is, it is about the ability to communicate with other appliances. This is not, again, it's not about the app, it's about the ability to make dinner better, to make dinner faster or easier. So how are these other appliances, how is a toaster oven working with the regular oven, working with the stove, let's say, if I'm cooking for 12 people and I'm trying to get everything done at one time? How does this coordinate? How can I make it so I can make fish and steak and vegetables all get done at the same time? The technology will be able to use so that I as a consumer can get all those done at the same time to really high quality and perfection that it's at. It's really leveraging how those things connected. So one, we have to be part of an open platform that allows it to communicate with other kitchen appliances and other housewares. Two, it has to be voice activated is somewhere along the line that you're going to be thinking about, because it's going to become much easier. It has to be two-way communication so that it's communicating back to you as a manufacturer so you can learn the problems and how consumers are using it so you can evolve the technology to last for decades. And then last but not least, it's got to be more than an app.
So how do you see that playing out, right? Because that becomes, a brand's fridge, as the way it's set up right now and the way it seems to be playing out, right, is that you're in an ecosystem. So you're either buying into like LG's fridge and oven will talk to each other, but your LG fridge isn't going to talk to your Samsung cooktop or whatever, right? Like that.
But,
so how do you get people who love to hoard data, right, and want to lock in that experience? How do you get those manufacturers to open up and create that open platform?
well, the good news is 2 years ago, that's exactly how it was. I think that's part of the reason why we're at an inflection point, is I think we're past that. Because these guys were forced to be open environment, forced to either play with Alexa or with Google and become voice activated, that forces you to be able to have an LG talk to a Samsung, being able to talk to a Keurig. Like, it forces that open platform, right? Whether it's Alexa or Google or whatever the case may be, that forces nobody to really try to own it. It's about the interaction between the appliances, because in the end, that's what the consumer wants.
Yeah.
The manufacturer wants that, but it's the consumer who's going to win, and they want this cross-platform communication.
Okay.
And that's what's making it, that's what makes this year so much different than 2 years ago, so much different than 3 years ago.
So how do you see the role of retail in all this then? So we talk about like the ability to create shoppable recipes, right? I see something online, I click a button, all those items are immediately, so I'm at work,
Yep.
like, oh, I want to have fish for dinner. I find a fish recipe, I click it, shoppable recipe, automatically loads it to my Amazon or Walmart basket, and then it's delivered, at home that day. So what in your mind, like, what is the role of sort of logistics and retail in facilitating this pivot to a full-time reality?
So I'm going to take it from a different perspective, but
Okay.
it fills with it. Is if you really think about it, when you're buying all these items, some of your key life moments, the first time you're getting married, the first time you're getting your new home, that's one of the demographic shifts we see right now. You become an empty nester and you upsize, downsize, or remodel, whatever, that's good for all of us, right? Or you retire and you move 300 miles and you try to downsize. All of those life moments, you're making some major purchase decisions across a variety of categories. So the key for retailers is to think about, how can I market the consumer and help them at that life moment and connect across those things. And that still is untapped. But it's part of the reason when we look at the top growing retailers in our area, you're seeing things like Home Depot and Lowe's, Best Buy, people like that are all doing well because they're helping the consumer at those key life moments. The key is all the other retailers can start to participate in this. So for example, I know people who we got a service called Checkout, that it's a longitudinal database that tracks all your purchases. But I know people who buy 3 or more appliances at one time. Within 90 to 180 days, they all buy housewares. Their houseware sales take off. Well, why is that? Because if I remodel my kitchen, guess what? When it's done, I want to show it off. So I'm going to have guests come over and I'm immediately go, oh, I need beverageware, I need new tabletop, I need new cookware, which could be, again, that smart enabled. So as retailers start to move from selling products to solving the overall need and solution, they can guide the consumer either within their store or by partnering with other retailers to manage that overall need. And that really is what's going to kind of help a lot of these guys survive in this type of environment.
What is incumbent on the manufacturer and the retailer, and what is incumbent upon the consumer in order to make this happen? Like, what needs to happen on the consumer? I mean, you could say, like, yes, go out and buy stuff, right? But what is the role of, I guess, it's wide open vistas. It's all new territory, right? So we're creating it as we're going along, right? Yep. So what is the role? I don't mean to make it sound so facile, but like, other than just go buy stuff, what is the role of like consumer and consumer education and manufacturers facilitating that education and those experiences so that they can feel more comfortable in making those purchases? Right. Like, how is it all interconnected?
Well, to me, everything starts and ends with the consumer. At the end of the day, they are always driving it. We like to think as retailers or manufacturers we're driving, but no, the consumer is always in charge. But the critical piece is it's important for the manufacturers and retailers to amp up our marketing efforts. Not only the amount of money that we spend in this, but in the quality and the ways that we're trying to market and communicate the benefits. We have to teach the consumer. We have to help them connect the dots on how these needs are, because they're still going to buy. Demographically, we're going to have more people hitting that first new home, so they're going there whether we go there or not. But if we go there smart, we can teach them on the best way to do it. But to do it, we've got to start really innovating, not only in products, but how we market, how we merchandise, how we communicate, so that consumer can connect the dots of what this world will look like when they're living in the home, or what this world will look like when they have this kitchen renovation, and how their lives are going to be better.
Right, you may not think you want a connected faucet, but if you know that it dispenses precisely 1 cup of water when you're making a recipe, then you might be like, oh, actually that's not such a...
Well, I'll give you an example, and this is what some of the majors are seeing. So we need to also think of this as a threat for the small. Is we know that we want these wide open kitchens, walls down, islands out there, nice and clean and pristine, and we can entertain. But because of that, we want to clean. So we want 3 items on the counter at the best. Well, one of them is going to be coffee related probably, right? Or caffeine related. Well, these majors are saying, oh, you want to clean? Why don't we put it in the cabinetry? They might start doing this with a bunch of other items. So the question is, how do you manage all that? How do you play and get in front of all that?
Yeah.
Are you happy about that, or are you not happy about it? What do you want the consumer to do, and how can you start teaching them? And if so, you've got to start building that earlier into the process.
I know what I want our audience to do, and if you have any questions, raise your hand and we can relate those to. Any questions from the audience? Nope, that's totally fine. If you think of something, just raise your hand and we'll get to you. So what if you could, so as part of this 2018 being a pivotal year, what's one thing that people should be looking out for this year that may not have happened yet? You know, at CES there was a ton of announcements, right?
Yeah.
But what's one thing coming down the pike that you think people should be on the lookout for?
Well, I think specifically for our industry, and it may be happening, but I think it's critical that we continue our conversations with the Amazons, with the Alexas, with maybe some of the major appliance manufacturers, and trying to figure out how you play part of that ecosystem. So one of the things, that would be one of the things I'd be thinking about.
Okay.
From a product perspective, it just opens the door. When you think of all the challenges you have of planning what you're going to eat, when you think of all the challenges you have in preparing what you're going to eat, all of those, there's so many opportunities. I always love this, I wish, I hate, I love moments. Everything we do has an I wish, I hate, I love moment. If you solve those, the money's just going to flow in. So you just got to focus, what are these things that we're solving every time you make eggs, every time you make a casserole, every time you make a one-pot meal? What are those things? That's what we'd be focusing on.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. You see people here like the Heston Q, which is doing guided cooking to help, to your point, like better prepare meals, right? So I'm not scared to undercook fish and poison my family. You know, I can know that they're going to be alive after I make them a dinner.
And that's a great example. That's a great example.
Yeah, and so as those things talk to one another, do you feel like planning? Because I feel like of the hurdles you mentioned, right? Like planning a meal seems like it's so much easier than it ever has been before, right? Between getting something delivered, or you know the ubiquity of delivery, right? Like everywhere, or grabbing something at the grocery store with or meal kits, or you know like you said, technologies that will go, oh, we noticed you have this. Here's what you can make with this, or inverting recipes. So you start with like a recipe, and then they go, oh, do you want to swap out chicken for fish? Here's how you do that kind of thing. So I guess. Is planning as big a concern for you anymore? Like of those, if you were to like rank them, what's sort of the biggest hurdle versus the lowest?
They're all important. Planning is probably one of the biggest ones, and it's interesting, some of the innovation they now can track, like you can start to do by which ones are going to go spoil, or which ones are going to, so you get the most out of your food dollars. The preparation is always the challenge that we all struggle with, because that's the involvement part of it. The best part, obviously, is the eating, so we like that. And then the cleanup, that's probably the area that gets ignored, but there's even some innovation there that people are using to make it so that the items that you have can be utilized in other ways and stuff. So I would focus mostly on the planning first, with preparation second, and cleanup last.
Okay, so we've got a room full of housewares professionals here. What is your challenge to them, or what is your rallying cry to them as someone who's watching this?
My rallying cry to you is two things. Be more than an app. Three things I'm going to say. Be more than an app. Find your And what I mean by that I wish, I hate, I love, you're replacing something, you have to have an better, faster, cheaper, healthier, some sort of Those would be my big rallying cries.
Awesome.
And dream, because this is a great time. This is a great time to be in our industry.
All right. Well, on that note, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Everybody, big round of applause for you
guys.